Hello, everyone. Welcome to Children's Wisconsin's live series, where we ask our experts about the big health issues facing our kids. And right now, our kids are facing a mental health crisis. I'm Tammy Hughes. I work on our communications team here at Children's Wisconsin, and I'm going to be leading the discussion today. I want to start with a few statistics that'll probably make you stop and think. Number one, last year, 44% of high school students reported they persistently felt sad or hopeless in the last year. That's the highest number that study has ever recorded. And according to Wisconsin's Office of Children's Mental Health, 1 in 5 Wisconsin children have a diagnosable mental illness, but approximately 40% are not accessing treatment. At Children's Wisconsin, we knew our kids were in crisis back in 2019, and that's why we committed $150 million to increase our programming and access to mental health care for kids. But of course, in 2020, we all faced a global pandemic, and that has only made this issue worse. So what we want to do today is focus on how parents can talk to their kids about their mental health and their feelings. But we don't just want to talk about it. We have some interactive ideas that you can use with your kids to help facilitate these very important conversations. Before our guest joins us, I want to invite you into the conversation by putting any comments that you have or questions you might have in the comments section, and we're going to do our best to get to some of those questions or comments by the end of our discussion today. So welcome, and joining us today to offer some insight is Artie Turner. Artie, please introduce yourself and tell us about your expertise.
Hey, Tammy. Yeah, thanks for having me. And hello, everyone. My name is Artie Turner. I am a licensed professional counselor here at Children's Wisconsin. I work at River Glen Pediatrics in Glendale, Wisconsin. I'll give you a little bit about my work background. I formerly worked at Rogers Behavioral Health in the partial and residential units for teens. And I also worked at WellPoint Care Network, formerly known as St. A, as an outpatient therapist.
So certainly working with kids, this is something that you're passionate about. Artie, explain your role as a behavioral health consultant, because this is unique to Children's Wisconsin. Some families might not be familiar with this. We just started doing this last fall.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tammy, I am thrilled to be a part of this team, this model that I believe is providing, mental health access to everyone, and it's helping destigmatize mental health in a positive way. And with that being said, the model is extremely unique, and I just want to say that we have about 15 to 17, I believe, BHCs now in our primary locations. And our goal is to have 36 therapists in all of our primary care locations, which is incredible. And with the model, it's more so I am a team member of your child's primary care team. So what that means is that, if your pediatrician notices any issues or concerns, or if your child brings up any issues or concerns, they will introduce myself, the behavioral health consultant, and I will be introduced and come into that visit that day to provide unique solutions that could potentially make things better. So what that looks like is there's an introduction. I would provide, families with, that our visits take about 15 to 30 minutes. And we focus on what really matters to you in that moment. And we all come up with strategies and a plan and skills to make things better. So we really use those ultra brief interventions so families, don't have to wait X amount of months for traditional therapy. And they feel that support right then and there when they come to see their primary care physician, because we all know that the primary care physicians are the first line for a lot of families.
Absolutely. Artie, when you hear the stats that I shared at the beginning, I mean, basically our kids are the saddest they've ever been. Do you think parents realize, or just the general public realizes, this is not just traditional teenage angst that every generation goes through? This is some pretty serious anxiety and depression that our kids are dealing with.
Yeah, I do. I do think parents are realizing, everyone's realizing that, mental health is extremely important and it's serious. And I think that the decline in mental health among children was intensified by the COVID-19 pandemic, whether that, be spanning racial and ethnic groups in urban and rural areas. Everyone has experienced different mental health concerns. And I think, what I've been hearing from parents, and the fact that parents even come in shows you that, parents, are worried, they care, and they would like to help, their family, their kids get through something that's very difficult and, frankly, difficult to talk about. But what I've been hearing when families come in is, moms, dads being worried, that their son or daughter is depressed, they're experiencing a lot of anxiety, they're isolating, parents are struggling to figure out how to really connect, with their children and, check in to see how they're doing. And that's tough. And that, puts a lot of stress on families, especially when, parents really want to see, their son or daughter, doing well and thriving in life and having, and being healthy.
Yeah, talking about parents and guardians, as a parent myself, I know it can be hard sometimes to get our kids to open up and talk about their feelings. What should parents know about how to broach this topic about mental health with their kids?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, adding on to, what's been something that I've seen or heard lately is, the communication. I know I briefly touched on it, but communication is tough for everybody, and we all struggle with it. But kids, struggle with it in a different way because they're navigating so many different things and developing, at different rates, and it's hard to express and learn how to communicate. But as we know it, communication helps us understand one another, and it helps remove misunderstandings, and it creates, clarity of thoughts and expression. And when we don't have that, it's hard to connect. It's hard to show up for people. And it's something that we need to practice. And I think, with our kids and for parents, broaching that it's going to be different for everybody, from a youngster to, a teen, a tween, whether it's, coloring, drawing, writing out your feelings, whether you're engaging in a shared hobby or an activity with your child. I think that's important too. Like, we have to be creative in different ways that we can engage our children, and just, lay a foundation and ease into that conversation. If we were to want to, start talking about it, if families, do want to openly discuss it directly, which is okay. And, you should talk about mental health directly, just being mindful of our words. And, I think, if you're going to ask your child how they're doing, let them know that you care about them, and let them know that you've noticed that maybe they've been, a bit more frustrated lately, and they're just wondering how you're doing. We have to begin to normalize mental health by talking about it directly. So if we were to go that route and wanting to talk about it directly, just, being mindful of that.
All right, let's give parents some tools now about how to have these conversations and talk to their kids about mental health. When do you think kids start understanding that they actually have feelings and emotions? And, then number two, what do I do with these feelings and emotions?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely important to discuss emotions, even before the age of 14. Normalizing talking about feelings is crucial at an early age, and allows your child to feel like they can trust you, they can open up, and there's we can start as early as 7 months. Those emotions of fear and anger are there, so it's important to discuss those things. And there's different activities that we can use. Some activities that I use in my visits, that make it more fun, that make it more engaging for kids. And these are things that you can, bring to your home. And, Tammy, why don't we start, now? I believe your colleague Dustin left a box on your desk. So why don't you lift that box up and let's see what it is. And with that.
Okay, so this is one of the activities that you recommend, is giving an object. So I'm looking. Oh, here's my object. It's a microphone.
So That is your object. So what I would like you to do is say 5 things about that object and how that object makes you feel.
Honestly, Dustin knows me pretty well. This object makes me a little anxious because I used to be a reporter and it reminds me of stressful situations that I may have been in. It also makes me feel important because it reminds me that I have a platform when I have this and other people are listening to the words I say. It makes me think of fun and singing and dancing. I do that a lot with my kids. We like to sing and carry on and dance like we're rock stars. Who doesn't, of course? Those are the 3 things that come to my mind. It does. It brings up some feelings and emotions for me.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing, Tammy. And just with that brief activity, you were able to come up with different feelings and emotions you have about that object. You went into, what you used to do, how it made you feel, without, any prompts from me except just to pick up the box and see what your object is. And just to see kind of how excited and your different nonverbal cues and what you were feeling in that moment, just expressing how you felt about that object, can open just different barriers in communication and get kids more comfortable about describing their feelings. And it could be fun for parents to obviously to participate in those activities.
Yeah, and what I love about some of these interactive ideas you have, Artie, is you're not saying our advice is not for parents to necessarily just go sit in front of your child and say, let's talk about your feelings, because as a parent, our kid is going to roll their eyes at us. We know that. So it's a way to get them comfortable sharing and talking without jumping in too deep right away, but it builds that relationship, you're saying.
Definitely. And I think that's the most important thing, Tammy, is that relationship. The strong parent-child bond really sets us up for, the child being able to express those emotions. So, really working on that, like we talked about earlier, doing things maybe without talking about mental health right away, engaging in those activities or hobbies, with your child and doing those regularly would be a good idea just to lay that foundation. And then, using activities like we did to kind of bridge that conversation and just get your kids comfortable with talking about those feelings and emotions. Because, it's not always, one of those things. I know we all like to, know how somebody is doing right there in the moment, whether it be our kids or whether it be in a relationship, but everybody's different. And, we really have to be mindful about, different communication styles. And that's hard when we're children, but it's, really taking the time out to listen and to figure out, what that may be, for, your child. And that could, we have these interactive activities, and we're going to provide families with more, but even, writing, learning how to write emotions down with your kids or your family, and, parents participating in writing just one feeling word about, how you're feeling. And then what I would say is to add on to that particular feeling. For example, if you're feeling stressed, what are 2 other options we can come up with? Maybe you're disappointed, and learning how to label our feelings and emotions, because it's important when we label, that provides us with strategy and an action plan. And, we're figuring out, how we're feeling in that moment. And so those are just some other, options, besides the interactive activities we can also implement.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Another activity you have involves some discussion cards that parents, you can print these. We put a link in the comments section of our live stream. So if you don't have access to a printer, you can also create these discussion cards on your own. They really are like flashcards. So you can print them from the link that we have provided, or you can just go there, look at them, and create these on your own. Really easy. This is an activity called Small Talk, and there are 3 categories of discussion cards. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, so the small talk cards, it's a fun therapeutic game that's kind of divvied up into different topics: family, feelings, and my world discussion cards. So it's basically, a deck of cards with a lot of different questions that you can, really, if you just wanted to, ask each other. But it's more so being more creative with the cards, rather than just, passing them around and having everybody answer them. You can use them, during pivotal moments during a card game, or while you're in the car on your way to school, just randomly picking a card and everybody participating. But the different examples, for the family card examples, is, how can you tell someone in your family is mad? So simple, questions like that can lead to great conversations, and, even getting a child to, talk about how she knows, or how he or she knows, mom or dad or brother is upset, and talking about that with them can be extremely important.
Let's
A
do a
different
few.
example. Oh, sure.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you one, and then you choose one for me. Let's do that. How about
Gotcha.
this? I'll ask you from the family discussion cards. Artie, what is unique about your family?
So, what is unique about my family? Well, what is unique about my family? Well, I was adopted at an early age. I was adopted at the age of 9, and
Artie, I
my
was adopted.
parents. Oh, wow. Well,
That's
see, and
wonderful.
there's, and then we're, communicating and building a relationship on similar things that have happened to us in our lives. And yeah, I mean, it's unique, and it's unique to me because, my parents are white, and there's different cultural things there. But we have such a loving relationship, and everybody's different. And, I would say, but what's most unique is that, my dad is a Polish man, and my mom is an Italian woman. So that is what's most unique, about my family.
That's wonderful. We really didn't plan that. We just bonded over that. I didn't know you were adopted. That's
Yeah,
wonderful. Do you have one for me?
sure. Tammy, what helps make you feel better when you're sad?
Oh, without a doubt, my 2 doggies. Without a
Oh,
doubt. They are like, they're not officially therapy dogs, but they are for me.
sure.
I have a Shih Tzu and a Maltese. In addition to my family, of course, my 2 doggies are just, they just help me relax, decompress. They're always there with, just love, no matter what kind of day they've had or you've had. So my 2 dogs for sure help me relax.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Tammy.
Yeah, and Artie has a few other ideas for parents to try. We've put those activities and explanations of those in our comments section as well. So look there for some wonderful ideas. And like we said, actual interactive ideas. If you feel like, I don't know how to have this conversation, well, these discussion cards can help start that for you. Finally, Artie, what would you say is the most important thing that parents can do when it comes to their child's mental health?
Yeah, I think, Tammy, it's really being clear and direct, not shying away from any hard questions, even though I know that can be, difficult. But approaching these issues with compassion, and not blaming. I know it's challenging and it's uncharted territory, but at the same time, like kids, want to be heard. I think it's important for us to be gentle, be curious, and over time be persistent but not insistent when it comes to
Mhm.
talking about mental health. And for parents, it's being gentle, it's acting interested, it's validating, and it's having that easy manner, and when talking to kids about really difficult things, and just to really be good listeners, be that role model, and when doing certain activities, and one that I talked about earlier, writing different emotions and feelings down, we can be our own emotional first aids and figure out, what's the need and value of this. Um, but what I would like to end it with is, just, for parents out there, with their kids who are struggling, continuing to let them, know that you love them, um, providing, that positive feedback and encouragement, is extremely important, and letting them know that, their emotional pain is, it's okay to share. Um, And I know kids would love to be heard, and they just have to feel comfortable enough to express those emotions, and there are ways that we can make them feel more comfortable doing that.
Yes, that is wonderful advice. Thank you so much for your expertise and for sharing these ideas with us. I'm sure it's going to help some families. I know it's helped mine because we've already done some of these discussion cards and had a great time. It was just learning a lot about each other.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, thanks,
that's
Artie.
Great.
Well, finally,
all right, thank you, Tammy.
Thanks, Artie. We want you to know that Children's Wisconsin has extensive resources available to support your child's mental and behavioral health. So we've put up a website on the screen. There it is, childrenswi.link/mbh. And if you go to that website, you will find resources, phone numbers to emergency, if you need emergency help, if you need long-term help, a little more about Artie's role, it's behavioral health consultant, it's all there. Thank you so much for joining us today. Part of our goal here at Children's Wisconsin is to also reduce the stigma around mental health. It is okay for kids to talk about it, and it's okay for parents to listen and hear your child's feelings. If you need help from an expert, you know who to call. Children's Wisconsin is here for you. Thanks.
We have a situation, Wisconsin. Our kids face a mental and behavioral health crisis. And it's time to shine through. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among teenagers. It's time to shine through and stop it in its tracks. There's a statewide shortage of pediatric mental and behavioral health workers. It's time to shine through and get families the help they need. These complex conditions, like anxiety and depression, can impact any child, anywhere. It's time to shine through and start a conversation that makes mental and behavioral health just as important as physical health. We are your kids, and this is our crisis. It's time to shine through and light a way forward. See how you can shine through and help create solutions for kids' mental and behavioral health with Children's Wisconsin.